This is my friend Emily. She and I are planning an extended trip, so we decided to do a video to kind of talk about some ways that we budget and or plan to save money while we're gone so that we can do this extended trip. So I figured it would be better for her to be here so that we can talk about it together because we're doing this trip together. Originally, I had been thinking that because there's so many train systems over there that it would be better for us to not have a car while we're there. But then when Emily started reading about it, because she's the researcher of the two of us, she found this super helpful article that was talking about how it's actually better to get a rental car and that there are different ways that you can get cheaper rental cars. So we are looking, I drive standard transmission. The first car I ever bought was a stick, and so it's going to be interesting because it'll be on the wrong side because everything's going to be backward. But that shouldn't be a problem, and apparently it's way cheaper to get a manual car than it is an automatic car. So that's like one thing that we're going to do to help.
I can't drive a stick, so that's going to be exciting. So I'm hoping to learn before we go. Everyone I've told that to has told me you can't learn a stick in a month, so we'll see. I don't know.
I learned in about 2 days.
Learned in 2 days? See? I'm getting good feedback from this friend, so we'll see.
I mean,
my family told me I was crazy. So.
I mean, I wasn't good at it, but I could drive to work every day.
Perfect.
So, when we're driving across the countryside, if we see something fabulous, like, let's just stop and see what it is and have an adventure. So.
And that's why we're booking a car, even though it's pricey, because we want to be able to stop. Because, yes, getting train fare, like going on a tour bus, that's great, and it's nice to have that taken care of, but you can't just stop and take pictures of sheep or the ocean or whatever you happen to see. So,
like, when we're looking at locations of places we want to stay, so obviously we're looking at how much that particular place cost, but trying to find places that are centrally located towards several things that we want to see, like that's definitely a consideration, and places that have a kitchen because we can save a lot of money on food and making some of our own food. I mean, obviously we want to support some local businesses there and like see what there is to see with local businesses, but I don't want to have to eat every meal out because that just gets crazy expensive, crazy fast. Just like having a plan, just thinking through those sorts of things in advance will just help the whole trip go smoother and help us actually see the things we want to see while we're there. Because as much as we are going to be gone for several months, we have like crazy long list of all the things we want to see. And dear Emily keeps adding to that list
because there's so many things. So this is a good time to introduce the guidebooks that I have found. These are Frommer's guides. I love these because they tell you so much about the places you're going. They give you the history of the area. They tell you like the best places to eat, the best walking trails. Like there's just categories for everything. And they also give you really good information about prices, which ties in well to budgeting. So you can kind of know ahead of time what you can afford, what you need to book days in advance. So I keep finding things as I'm reading these that just look amazing.
I am super excited about asking for local recommendations. I want to meet a lot of people because I'm a people person. I like talking to people. So Emily and I talked about this because she's a little more introverted than I am. And I want to like meet people and ask what they like to do that's close by. And I don't mind driving a couple hours from wherever we're staying because I just want to see what people actually like to see and not necessarily just like the touristy spots. Another way that we've been working on saving money is like planning when we were going to buy our plane tickets. So I started looking at plane tickets about 9 months, I think, before we left. But I wasn't buying it. I was just kind of like seeing how much prices were then and looking at different airports, seeing which airports tended to be cheaper and that kind of stuff. We actually purchased our plane tickets about 3 months out, just because the prices dropped a lot and it just seemed like a really good idea to just go ahead and buy before they went back up.
And I think we read, was it 8 weeks is when the tickets are supposed to be cheapest?
6 to 8 weeks,
6 to 8 weeks. So that's why we were holding off for so long, and there were some really good prices, but it completely depends on the day that you leave. Like, if you leave on a Wednesday instead of a Thursday and they're right next to each other, it could be like $200 difference. So just look at a wide range of dates because even changing one day can completely change the price.
Like, trying to think through, like, obviously there are going to be unexpected things that we're going to encounter, and we're just going to have to deal with that, but we're kind of both prepared for unexpected things.
And I think that's the mindset that I always try to take into traveling, and one of the reasons that it feels so freeing compared to my everyday life is that I go in knowing so many things are going to be unexpected and you have to live with open hands to enjoy it. You can't be in control of everything, so that's why I try to plan enough that I feel comfortable going in with those open hands, and then we can just live in the moment. If you stay in a certain place, so for instance, if you're booking an Airbnb and you stay for over a month, sometimes there's a monthly discount, so it can actually be cheaper if you stay longer, so that's something to always check.
And like different places that we were going, since some Airbnbs offer like weekly or monthly discounts, but not all of them do, so when we were booking a couple of places on Airbnb's website, we chose like, oh, since this place gives us a better discount, we're going to stay there for a full week and then only spend like when we have these extra 4 days or whatever, we're going to go to a different place that doesn't offer the weekly discount just to like help us save some money here and there, which I know like it's not going to be a huge chunk, but I mean those little pieces really do add up over time.
We're not planning to stay in hostels because for our work we have to take computers with us, and so we just don't feel comfortable having to leave them there. But that would be cheaper than what we're doing, so there are definitely levels of a budget, so it just depends on what you're looking for.
However, like, I really like traveling and staying in hostels when I'm doing, like, a hiking adventure-y trip, but for this extended trip, I'm not planning to adventure the whole time because I've got to live normal life to some extent. So we're both going to be working while we're there, which is why we're going to have our work computers and such.
And I will say, when we were searching for houses on Airbnb, we totally like took the price tool and like took it way down as far as we thought we could handle without it being too like basic. And then we looked through to see what was available, and if there was nothing, we would like bump the price up a little bit more. But mostly we're trying to stay, I think we managed to stay between like the $30 to $55 a night budget. So hostels will be a little cheaper, but that I feel like that's still really low if you're staying in Airbnb and you're staying somewhere nice, and some of the places even have like washing machines and kitchens. So that's really going to help us offset having to pay someone else to do our laundry.
Some of the locations we're staying are super nice too, which when I'm looking at places to stay, I'm looking at like the area, is it a nice place, those sorts of things, which is a little hard when you're in a completely different country. Like you don't know the local things, but in other ways you can find a lot of good information, so just like taking the time to do that research in advance really helps.
We did research on the things that really mattered to us, like price, safety, is it close to the things we wanted to see, and as long as it hit all those things and it looked a little cute, so it wasn't a terrible place to stay, because I care about that. I think most people do. If we hit like all of those bars, we went ahead and we just booked it.
Since we're working and we don't have time to just drive all the time because we've got to get our work done too. So we'll probably have some days where it's like we're working a majority of the day, and some days where we're touring a lot of the day, but then there are going to be a lot of days where it's like partial work, partial tour, partial driving, those sorts of things, and just trying to make it more manageable because when it's an extended trip, it's actually like your lifestyle is going to be there as opposed to, oh, we're on an adventure for a week.
Remembering that it takes about 2 weeks to get into a mindset of a new rhythm of living. So probably about 2 weeks before we kind of know what we're doing, and then we'll have this rhythm that we can carry out as we live our lives, and having your house central is really going to help with that.
One of the most important things is probably just trying to prepare for everything. You're not going to be able to prepare for everything, but just preparing yourself for things to go wrong and to just mentally be in that space where it's okay if everything falls apart. Going through customs, as soon as we tell them we're on a long trip, they're probably going to have a bazillion more questions than if we said we were there for a week.
So, funny story, just to prepare you for this. Apparently, I have metal in my left shoulder. No idea why, but almost every time I go through customs, I am pulled aside and patted down because there's supposedly metal in my shoulder. They always ask me if I've had a medical procedure, if there's a plate. No, there's not.
When you're planning an extended trip, depending on which countries you're going to, being aware of the different visas and which countries have reciprocity. Did I say that word?
That's a hard word.
Like with how long you're allowed to stay there without a visa, those sorts of things. If you need to get a visa, even if you're just going for a couple of days, just like being prepared for all those things. Make sure you check your passport because, I mean, you don't want to try to get on the plane and your passport expired last month.
And that's why planning ahead is so important, because the goal of the trip is to enjoy ourselves and to grow and to see things. And so you want to eliminate as much stress as you can, and the best way to do that is to plan ahead, and also especially to plan your budget, because money can be so stressful, especially when you're traveling long term, you're only working part-time. Working somewhat is going to help, but it's still stressful. I have a budget app that I'm planning to use. It's going to be a little tricky because I'm going to have to transfer it back into US dollars from where we are, but just keeping track of how much you're spending, it really helps. I know it's hard to have the discipline to do that, like if you're eating out and then you buy something and then something else happens, but you can spend so much money, and then when the next decision comes, you don't know what to decide because you don't know how much you've spent. The app that I use, it's Every Dollar, and it's actually Dave Ramsey's app. It's amazing. You should use it.
I think one of the big things that I still need to look into is phone plan, because obviously I want my phone to work while I'm over there, but I don't want to spend hundreds of dollars every week keeping my phone working. One thing I didn't think of originally was how much the tax is going to be there, and apparently like in England that food tax is I think like 20% or something like that, or at least close to 20%. I would have never thought about that because I mean like here in our state we just got rid of our food tax, you know what I mean? Like that's not a thing anymore. Really, Googling can really be your best friend. Also, the reason I saw the food tax thing was actually because I follow a girl on Instagram who lives in the UK, and she just mentioned it one time in her stories, and I was like, oh, mental note, I need to be aware of this.
Like, talk about your trip. Ask everyone you know what they would say about it, because a lot of people will have traveled and they'll have really good advice, or even bring up things that, like you said, you wouldn't even have thought of.
Yeah.
So things like the phone plan, like I'd completely forgotten about that. Thankfully I have you, because otherwise I was going to get over there and not have a phone.
So I hope you found some of those helpful, and that some of this is useful for information for you if you're planning an extended trip, or if you're just watching for fun. Hey, you know, whatever helps you. So if you liked this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you want to give us any advice in the comments, that would be great. Alternately, if you want to ask us any questions, we've gone on, we've both traveled before and done different things for it. And we'll have I'll have more videos leading up to our trip, and then obviously once we're there, you'll see a lot of travel videos. So if you want to see those, hit that little subscribe button. Bye guys!